Hey friends, thank you for watching. Someone recently asked me for my thoughts on the video by found footage short film on the abduction of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon part 2. And so, I previously had watched it and I watched it again so I could, give you a solid review. I wanted to make sure that, this review was based, on accuracy and not just on a distant memory. Now, first of all, I didn't like the video in such that you had to read the words. Now, I mean, there was interviews, but they were like in Dutch and Spanish, so you had to read the translation on the screen. Usually, when I watch YouTube videos, I'm doing something else and I'm listening to it. Kind of like my videos. You can listen to me, but you could be doing something else. Well, that's how if I'm watching a sports show or whatever, I listen, but I'm doing something else. So if I have to actually sit and like read the screen, it's frustrating. And I feel like the YouTube creator had like 15 to 20 minutes of material, but it took 53 minutes to post because it was all on the screen and different people read at different levels. And I just felt that aggravating. But the video is worth a watch. First of all, the YouTube creator, the found footage short film, they make the case that based on the absence of photo 509, we can come to the conclusion that there is foul play and some sort of cover up with the authorities. Now, I don't know if we can 100% say that because I'm sure sometimes photos and videos have a glitch to them. But for the most case, the way that they're supposed to function is that it usually takes a computer to completely delete a photo. So I think the probability is that yes, there is some sort of foul play. Now, was it accident or was it intentional? That's what we have to get to. Now, I believe it's intentional. Usually, police force isn't going to accidentally delete a photograph. So, you know, but they so based on the photo 509, showing that there was some sort of foul play and photo manipulation, the found footage short film creator, they bring forth their theory of the trip to the Pianista Trail, and they call it the backpack theory. Now, I'd never thought of this theory before, and it makes complete sense. And probably the video is worth a watch just based on that theory alone. And this theory, and if you look at the photographs of Kris and Lisanne on the trail in this light, it makes perfect sense that on the way to the summit and beyond, Lisanne had made the agreement that she would carry the backpack. Then on the way back, Kris said that she would carry the backpack. Remember, there's one backpack and there's two women. So only one person carries it at a time. And if you think about it, this makes sense. If you go on a hike with someone, you're not going to keep on switching backpacks back and forth, back and forth. It's like, like the original photographs would show. I think someone would carry the backpack for a length. Now, if you look at the photos, you can see in that light that Lisanne had it in the beginning and Kris had it coming back. It makes total sense that they did go past the summit and then they came back. And you can see photos going and coming at the summit. So, the one interesting thing is that, when Kris was crossing the creek, you could see that there was a piece of mud on her leg. And then, coming back in one of the photographs, you can see that mud's not there. And, the found footage short films, he claims that the Panama authorities they photoshopped the dirt off, but it's not really even necessary to say that. If Kris had a chunk of dirt on her legs, think about it. Why wouldn't she just wipe it off? I mean, a lot of people would wipe it off. I mean, I'm not really even, my wife calls me a slob a lot, but even I, like if I could like wipe a chunk of mud off my leg, if I had the opportunity, I would. So that makes a lot of sense. Their backpack theory. Think about that. And look at the photos in that light. Because the photos, the way that they're presented, they make no sense. There's not time for the photos, and I already said that. And if you go to the Backpacker Coach's channel, I think he illustrates that pretty well. So anyway, now another thing that is brought forward is a lot of eyewitness testimony that Kris and Lisanne did come back from the trail. And I've said this before. There's really, is there really even reason to believe that Kris and Lisanne did not come back from the trail? So, I mean, if you do believe that, there's going to be eyewitness testimony. Now, someone claims that, yeah, but, these eyewitnesses had certain things wrong. Well, don't eyewitnesses have certain things wrong? If I went to a baseball game, I'm wearing a Cincinnati Red shirt. If I went to a baseball game with somebody, my count of the game, I would have the big picture right. We both would. We both would know who the starting pitcher was. We both would know who won the game, right? But there's different things in that game that we might have a different memory of. So, yeah, eyewitnesses tend to have different details. Actually, if all the witnesses had the same exact details, if they get everything right and they're the same, well, that usually is signs of collaboration. And that's, you don't want to get that. So, there's really, I don't think, any solid reason, unless you want to get to the cell phone data, but I think that's been corrupted. I think that the women did come back from the trail. And so, I think that the found footage short films, they're solid in that area. And however, I think that they, so far they're solid, and I'm about to get to where I don't think they're as solid. But with eyewitness testimony, with the backpack theory, and another thing I want to mention, and this was one of the themes in the found footage short film, is that there was a conspiracy. And it was, all the way back from a previous town Kris and Lisanne were, a conspiracy that linked the school with the criminal element in Boquete. I know I always mispronounce that. I'm just going to say the small town or something, in Boquete. Well, it is awfully odd, isn't it, that you think that Kris and Lisanne, their schedule, their vacation, the one foundation piece in their one thing that they couldn't change in their vacation was the week that they were going to volunteer in at that school. So when they get there and the school has it mixed up that they're not supposed, that from the school's point of view they weren't ready for them, that is suspicious. And I don't think Kris and Lisanne had that wrong. I believe that they were there right, because if you're planning a vacation, that's one thing that's immovable. Immovable is you have dates when you're going to volunteer somewhere. So however, to jump and say that the person who's the director of the school is in collaboration, works together with the criminal element of Boquete for sex trafficking, this, okay, that's possible, I guess. But then, if that's possible, wouldn't it happen all the time? Wouldn't there be many foreign women, European women, who come and work at that school that are lost? Now, there have been several cases of people going missing, but not a lot. If this really was a sex trafficking ring that the school and the criminal element of Boquete participated in, I would expect that there'd be more than just a few examples. So, I'm not really sure how. Could the school be in on it? I guess possibly. But then, wouldn't it happen more often? I mean, certainly the school wouldn't just have an axe to grind against Kris Kremers to Lisanne Froon. So, is something fishy there? Something seems fishy. But then, it's also odd that it wouldn't happen more often. So, to say that there's a connection between this school and a criminal element in Boquete for sex trafficking, I mean, you're making a bold statement against the school. in order to make such a bold statement against the school, I think you better have some facts to back it up. And there's just no facts presented. I haven't seen any. I've seen other people promote that theory, but really, where's the facts? So, anyway, I'm not sure how I like that. I agree something's wrong that Kris and Lisanne didn't. Could the school have just messed up? That's possible. Could a small town in Panama? I mean, I don't want to sound nationalistic or racist or or anything like that. But is it possible they could have been more laid back and not had quite as accurate records and who was coming and who was going? Well, that's possible too, I guess. I'm not sure. I guess I don't know how to say that. Now, something that's interesting is that found footage short films. They claim that Kris and Lisanne, once they got back from the pianista trail, their potential abductors, not their potential, their abductors, eventually, picked them up. They had a ride, and they offered them to go for a swim in the Caldera hot springs. But first, Kris and Lisanne needed to go back to their house or their host house to get their bathing clothing, and then they went to the Caldera hot springs. And then when Feliciano came back to the apartment or the house family the next day, he's the one that switched the clothing out. I got a problem with this theory. Now, I don't have a theory with these abductors taking Kris and Lisanne to the Caldera hot springs. I believe that that's a very good possibility. Now, in that photo that's famous, it's never been proven or disproven that that's Kris or Lisanne. It's open for interpretation. I tend to believe it is Kris and Lisanne, but I could be wrong. But the idea that Kris and Lisanne actually went back to the host family first, friends, you would have had eyewitnesses, would you not? If they actually went from the pianista trail back to their host family to get their clothing, and then they went back to the vehicle and then went to the Caldera Springs, wouldn't there be witnesses that claim, yeah, Kris and Lisanne came back to, and got gear? But I've seen no interview of that. No one claims that. So if Kris and Lisanne went to the hot springs after the pianista trail, after they walked the trail, I don't think they went back to their host family. I believe they went right to the trail. Now, the found footage short films, they claim that on the way to the trail, since to the springs, since the Caldera Springs was a 45-minute drive, that during that drive, Kris and Lisanne, they got a little nervous, and because they were nervous and because it was 45 minutes and they didn't expect it to be 45 minutes, that's when the first two calls for help came. That's when they first dialed emergency. First, Kris and then Lisanne. Now, here's the deal. If they were that uncomfortable to call an emergency number, would they later go swimming and drink with these guys? That's a pretty... I'm not sure. I'm not sure it happened in that scenario. But here's another interesting thing, and I read the comments from the found footage short film, the Abduction Part 2. I read the comments, and there was, I think there was two people actually that lived in Boquete or near Boquete, and they knew there was like one road that went from Boquete to the Caldera hot springs, and they said in the comment section, if you read far enough, now I'm not sure if it was one or two, when the usernames, it gets a little blurred after a while, and I'm new with my glasses, and I really don't like wearing glasses, so my eyes get tired. I have these glasses so my eyes don't get tired, and they have like the blue screen. It's supposed to kind of help your eyes with the computer screen. But when I look at the computer with these glasses, it makes my eyes actually more tired. So anyway, I'm not sure if it was one or two people, but basically people from the area claim that the road from Boquete to the Caldera Springs has cell phone connection. So if Kris and Lisanne both tried to call on that road, they would have got a connection. Okay, well, here's 2 points to that. First of all, yeah, there's one person that doesn't get connection. Well, that makes sense, but it happened twice, and 2 times they didn't get connection. But here's another part of this deal. There's people in the year 2022, claiming that they didn't, that you can get connection on the road, that road has cell phone connection. Well, friends, this crime happened in 2014. So it doesn't matter if there's cell phone connection there now. Was there cell phone connection on that drive in the year 2014? I don't know. And I think we make so much out of the cell phone data. I think we actually say matter-of-factly, friends, what one phone can pick up, another phone might not be able to pick up. And I know it sounds weird, but different providers, different phones, it does make a difference. If someone has an iPhone and they have AT&T, well, that's not going to be the exact same thing as if someone has a Samsung and they have Verizon. Now I'm speaking from my area where I live. So, yeah. Anyway, this person, to make a long story short, and, this video is already 16 minutes long, to make a long story short, this person says that these guys, once Kris and Lisanne were swimming, that they abducted them, and the idea was to sell them into sex trafficking. However, because of some sort of delay, something went wrong. So the person that they were working with with the sex trafficking backed out, and so that eventually the plans turned to organ harvesting. So, with Kris and Lisanne, you kind of get sex trafficking or organ harvesting. Like you see like these things pop up. Personally, I think it was someone that wanted. Personally, I think it was sexual predators who attacked them, and I don't think either of these things happened. But these are common things that continue to pop up, and what's first of all, like found footage short films, going from sex trafficking to organ harvesting, you're like, well, choose one. These are two completely different things, right? These are two different theories and methods and conspiracies. But the idea that the abductors were going to do one, but one fell through and they went to another one, I actually think there's some credibility that rings true for that. That kind of sounds like something, like a plan was messed up and they had to go to a backup plan. Now but something in this film that totally did not make sense to me is I said that, one of the lungs from the women was removed. Friends, when you do organ harvesting, you just don't take out a pocket knife and cut out someone's lung and expect that lung to work. Do you know how hard it would be to take out a working lung, keep that lung working, and keep it preserved for somebody else? This isn't something that you just do in a cave. Maybe some things you might be able to do with lesser equipment, but when you're talking about a lung, I'm very suspicious of that. Now, the whole crux, I can't say that, found footage short film is actually wrong in the big picture or right in the big picture, because their whole case is based on an anonymous person who claims that they dated one of the people who abducted Kris and Lisanne. So their case, they claim, is based on an eyewitness, but they don't name the eyewitness. It's kept anonymous for that person's protection. Well, how can I say they're wrong? I don't know who that person was. I can't validate anything they say. So, is the theory a good working theory? Without the witness claim? Part of it. Part of it I don't think it is. Part of it I don't think makes sense. Part of it does. I like the backpack theory. I think that makes sense. I think that the pictures were rearranged or manipulated in such a way that they show, the lost in the jungle narrative, when in fact, if you actually think about it, the pictures can show going past the summit and then coming back from the summit. the number of people that died surrounding this case, this film, the found footage short film brought up, and it's fact. This isn't something that's just mentioned, and not just a theory. It's actually fact that there's, and actually in the Caldera Hot Springs. Now I don't know if this is true, but the person said that everyone that was in that photo, the men that were in that photo, all the men died a year within that photo was taken. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I can't validate that, but I can say that there's a lot of people that are suspicious, and that in some way or another, people think they're connected to this case, have died. So, kind of like in the JFK, a lot of people in the JFK conspiracy have died. Usually when there's a lot of death surrounding a conspiracy, something wrong happened. Foul play occurred. Well, that's with Kris and Lisanne. There's a lot of people that died surrounding this case. And suspicious deaths. So, not one, not two, more than that. So, usually where there's smoke, there's fire. And if you see a handful of deaths around one case in a short amount of time, and they're not natural deaths or murders or accidents, something happened. So I certainly believe that. Now, is that until a witness is validated, is, this found footage short film, is it worth the watch? Maybe the first 12 minutes. The rest of it, there's just too much speculation. And there's too much I think the found footage short film, I think they wanted to tell the story, but there's details that I can't, for example, there's details of when Kris and Lisanne would have snuck phone calls in. That they had possession of the phone for their phones for the first 3 days, and if they snuck the phone calls in and getting the phone calls, how would the abductors know that they actually had their phones? You get me? Like if it would be a mystery. So whoever dated one of the abductors, you just wouldn't know that information. If you kidnapped someone and they were doing something behind your back, you wouldn't be aware of that. Well, if you wouldn't be aware of that, then you couldn't tell someone else. So this found footage short film, they make a lot of speculation, and in the end, I think they probably muddy the waters. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I was reading the comments section, and someone made the comment that a lot of material was taken from Scarlett. Now, I didn't go to Scarlett's page and watch every video that she made just to see if the videos were the same or not. And Scarlett could have taken down some videos, but I don't think it's cool to take videos from somebody else and then not give that person credit. I don't know if that's what happened or not, again, but that's what someone said. I recommend maybe the first 12 minutes, maybe the first 15 minutes. I really didn't enjoy it very much. There's just, as I said before, too much speculation. Until that witness is identified, and then we can start talking. Anyway, that's my thoughts. You can make your own thoughts. I hope I helped you in some way. And again, you can leave a message. And again, just to repeat, I believe firmly that foul play occurred. I believe that there's no facet of this case that shows that there's a probability that the loss or accident theory happened. I believe if you use Occam's razor, I have videos of that. Videos of where it's more likely that, foul play occurred. A high probability. So, if someone from my standpoint says, I'm not really even sure if I recommend this, it muddies the waters, I think that tells you something. I think there's better videos on the subject. Now, they're going to have a part 3, and that part 3 might validate the first 2 videos. In that case, then, it could be high quality information. But just, having all this speculation stuff and accusing all these different people without having facts and or if you do have a witness but not claiming the witness so other people can't validate that witness, I don't like that. Anyway, friends, thank you for watching. God bless you, and take care.